let's dive in. Enough silly business. Let's get to it. So, if you guys are newer to me presenting, I encourage you to interrupt me, ask questions. I like when things are relevant. So, if you have a question in the moment, I want you to ask it. If you're polite and not like me and interruptive, you can absolutely leave it in the chat and we'll address it at the end of the presentation. But for now, let's jump in. So I'm going to lower that. I want to make sure everyone can see my screen without any issues. You should be seeing a title slide that says Stop Prospecting and Start Providing, and why agents who win in 2026 won't sound like agents at all. We can all see that page. We're all good there, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Beautiful. So it's a little bit of an odd title, and it comes from an interesting place. So I wasn't always an agent. I was actually doing marketing and advertising for agents for about 12 years, before becoming an agent myself a handful of years ago. And this is an ongoing kind of training that we do that just adds a little bit more each time. So a lot of what I want to start with is just a recap of how things have been over the past few years, specifically around prospecting. I define prospecting as activities that generate new connections, right? Let's keep it super simple, make sure we're all on the same page with that. Prospecting is an activity that creates a new connection that may or may not eventually do business with you. So let's dive in. And I want to set something very clear from the get-go. This presentation is not a series of hot takes or hype or, trends. It is not a silver bullet for your business. It is not a set and forget style, and it is not a zero effort prospecting system. And now that the doom and gloom is out of the way, if that doesn't sound like something you want to pay attention to for the next 45 minutes, it's super easy. You just hit the end button and you go about your day. If you guys are interested in learning good information that's evergreen, founded in good principles, I welcome you to take this journey with us. But I just want to make it clear we are going to be reviewing some information and there is no silver bullet in it because this is your business. You are going to take this information, interpret it how you would like through your own filters and your own ways of thinking, and implement it or not into your own business. With that out of the way, let's dive in. I have a problem with the way traditional prospecting has been so far, right? And we get the calls all the time as realtors from, virtual assistants. We get it from other brokerages. We get it from, people trying to sell us advertising or whatever that might be. Um, so I just want to be very clear that there is an issue with how a lot of people are running their prospecting systems, right? Cold calls, especially today, are getting colder. Anyone can hop on the internet and be shown a myriad of things about real estate overall. And some of it's legit, some of it's not. And again, it all goes through our own self, our filters in our brain, and we take what we want. I think that in today's information age, consumers are oversold on every aspect of real estate. I think with the influx of information, trust is on an all-time low. And when it comes to whether investing time or capital, attention is expensive. Now, I do want to highlight time and capital investment is something that I've talked about a lot in my past trainings. I believe that any action that you take to build your business is either going to cost you in money or it's going to cost you in time. Those are the two currencies that we have to work with as realtors. You want more time, it means you put in more capital. You want to have more capital and keep more at the end of the day, it requires you to put in more time. You can debate that with me. That's my position. I'm not moving off it. You're investing capital or you're investing time. Okay. So when I'm talking about currency throughout this, you pick which lane you want to go and adapt it to your business. Okay. Here's what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing over the past number of years of being online, being in marketing, being in advertising. I think there's a huge shift happening about how people are doing business, right? I think the old way was very focused on interrupting pattern, right? So how do I get in front of someone before they're thinking about this? How do I stop their scroll? How do I stop them from thinking about something so I can tell them about what I want to do? Right? I think that we're moving from interruption, from chasing, from, sales, so to speak, and from being, top of mind is what we all want to focus on. I think the new way is going to be focused around attraction and trust. And obviously not physical attraction, though that helps. But I mean, my mom always told me I had a face for radio and I have a pretty healthy business, right? So I want to focus on attracting clients. I want to focus on being chosen rather than chasing someone down, and service versus sales. And the top of mind is important, but I would much rather invest more into someone's relationship so that when the time comes, I am the only one that they will trust to take them on the journey of buying, selling, investing, downsizing, divorcing, whatever niche you want to serve. You need to be the trusted figure. And that's how a lot of agents are going to stand out beyond the, oversaturation of realtors in most Canadian markets. I think the US has seen a big correction in how they're running their businesses, and there's kind of a natural culling of lower performing realtors, but we're not those people, right? We are all going to invest in our business. We are going to listen to what Mike and the rest of the team at Northern Alliance has to say about how to build an awesome one. And we're going to move forward into 2026, make it our best year. Now, um, you know, a lot of the questions are, what do you know? Why are you talking about this? Why are you on the screen instead of me? Nothing of what you're going to see is new. It's not hype. It's not a trend. It's just tested information over time. In my opinion, there's some universally applicable patterns that continually emerge and cycle through over, the course of humankind, right? A lot of what you're going to see in this presentation is accumulation of years of testing, and specifically going really heavy in the last like 6 months. I was challenged by one of the agents on our team directly here in Ottawa, like, why do things work the way they do? Does it only apply to real estate, or is there a broader approach that centers around content and value that can be applied, right? So I went out in the last, 6 months to a year, and very specifically, we're testing this on multiple niches with real audiences versus, a cold list of 10,000 people, and have measured my results. And in that time, I have found some very fundamental principles that are, you know, profiting for different brands across different niches and often on different platforms. So, what I want to deliver to you guys today is the fundamentals of prospecting in what I believe is a golden opportunity for realtors that do it right, as trust is at an all-time low. Okay. So, here's some kind of overarching things that I've come to learn from the testing over the last, number of years, but more specifically into the last 6 months. What I've seen work across every niche, and I'll say this with clarity. I tested a bunch of niches, not just real estate. I went, hyper niche in some areas, and I guess I should take a step back. For those who don't know what a niche is, it's essentially a target audience or industry. Okay. So here are four things that I've really come to learn about producing content and prospecting in each of these niches that became universally applicable. Value will always beat volume. Okay. A lot of people out there will say, you should be posting 3 times a day, and here's how you cycle all your information. And then once you're recycling your information from 30 days ago, you add in and do 4 or 5 posts a day, whatever that is. I have found that the best results have come from one post a day, and you invest a little bit of extra time and effort into it and make it more quality. I think clarity of information is beating charisma these days. A lot of people can get on and be incredibly likable personalities and say some absolutely garbage nonsense. So I want you guys to get very clear on the message that you are delivering to your prospects, regardless of the avenue or form that you're doing it in, whether it's social media, a mailer, your email, a mail drop, whatever that might be. Clarity will always beat charisma, in my opinion, these days. Trust beats frequency. Now, it used to be, you have to talk to someone 11 times, before they will actually engage with you or do business with you. And while I believe that to be somewhat true, I think that if you can increase the quality of your initial trust building activities, that window begins to shorten, right? Would you rather have three meaningful conversations with someone or chase them down 11 to 15 times until they actually say, fine, you worn me down, I'm going to move forward with you, right? Trust will beat frequency. Helpfulness beats hype, right? I think there's only one person out there right now that's getting by on hype, and realistically, they're not the business that I would particularly want to have. I would rather serve a smaller community and be helpful and meaningfully productive and contributory to their community, because that's really going to increase referability. It's going to increase their chance of repeat business, and I think overall they're going to be that it'll result in a reduction of, buyer's remorse or seller's remorse or, negative reviews. Everybody needs to start focusing on how can I be of service to someone? How can I help them buy a house versus how can I sell them a house? That's very different avenues. Okay. How we're going to do all this. Now, this is something that I have tested like across the board, and these are five things that I have found work incredibly well for selling anything online, whether that's, a direct product, an information product, affiliate work, building a community of people wanting to engage with you. Real estate obviously is a big one. I think these are universally applicable. And I want to walk through each one and their importance, right? So the first one is guides, right? You don't have to write a full book. I think the AI gave us a little bit of a misnomer with a full book and a nice like bookmark and everything. I have seen a lot of people respond very well to 5 to 10 page, at a glance guides. How could those guides look, right? We can be as general as, you know, how a buyer can make the right decisions on their next purchase, right? And just spitballing, so they may not sound hashed out. Or you can get hyper niche and say, women's choices in real estate after divorce, right? So that probably wouldn't be something I would do as a man, but that could be something that, if you wanted to be very niche specific and start to network with really great family lawyers who are servicing women in their divorce proceedings, you know, go to those lawyers and say, hey, I've created a guide. It's all about the real estate decisions that women need to make following a divorce. I'd like to provide that guide to you for free, and you can send it to your clients. Would that make sense? So, and if we back up once, I made a guide for divorce decisions, after like real estate decisions after divorce. Didn't put men, woman, whatever. I had no lawyer say no to it. I've had a couple of referrals from them. And I think it's just really good business to lead with value first. Okay. Checklists are the next one. Super easy to create, very tactile. Like you can bring them with you in your presentation kits. You can have one that you leave with them. You can collect information on one. They just seem to be a very good way to engage with people, and it keeps your system and their way of thinking about the real estate transaction systematized, right? We're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and at the end of that, we get this, right? Very simple, keeps people on track. And a lot of people will actually continue to use those checklists. So I was working with one individual towards the end of October, and they had been living in their house for 40 years before finally downsizing now to a retirement home. And they kept bringing up, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start, all this. So the next meeting that I had, I drafted them up a checklist, right? And when we went to go and actually sign the listing agreement, they had it on their fridge and they had been checking it off all along. And then the step just before kind of all the processes of selling your house was, interview real estate agents and sign a listing agreement, right? And we were systematically at that next check, and I was at the table. Here's your agreement. Let's go. And I asked them, I said, did you interview other agents? And they said yes. And I said, why did you choose me? And like, because no one else gave us information like this. Okay. Checklists are very easy to create. They're very easy to print off ahead of going to a meeting, and they're very easy to keep top of mind with people, especially who are engaged in their videos, or sorry, in their processes. And now I'm reading the next part. Short videos, right? I think that there's a big, big push right now for vertical content on social media, 30 seconds to a minute and a half long. There's certain trends that have happened more recently that I think people are starting to consume vertical video in slightly longer bunches. So YouTube recently introduced their 2 minute shorts. So that's a full minute longer. TikTok, you can actually now upload up to 60 minutes of vertical video in one video. I think that when people gravitate to their phones, there's just so many more people looking on their phones than they are on their screens. If you're not leveraging vertical short video content on any of the platforms, and what I'd recommend is choose one or two to kind of as your pillars of content, I think you're going to be missing out. Now, what do these videos look like? It could be you, right, holding out your phone or on a tripod or something and talking back and forth. Or it could be your home tours or neighborhood tours or whatever that might be. There are a myriad of ideas that you can run with, and we're going to talk about how to generate some later on. So let's move to the email explainers. For any of you guys who have been on my past presentations, you know that I am a huge fan of very, very regular emails. So right now I'm doing 3 per week. My first one is the deal of the week that goes out on a Monday. I have a market update that goes out on Wednesday, and then I have and now a story email that goes out on Fridays. Now, that story is typically the explainer. So there's something that has happened during the week that I'm going to put into an interesting story that's going to have a lesson. And that lesson is hopefully what they're going to pull out of it and continue to build trust. So, for example, I have a foreclosure listing with a big Canadian bank right now that just had a ton of water damage go through it. So now we're dealing with a bunch of the lawyers. And because there were no cameras on site or showing logs, or the property manager wasn't keeping logs, they're essentially just stuck with a property with a ton of water damage, and there's no recourse. So I'm going to share that story with my email list and suggest, like, if your property is vacant, you should probably invest in, $100 camera with some basic servicing just to protect your property. Or, if you have a vacant property, make sure that you're going to it every couple of days because that's what the insurance company is going to want to see. And that is going to be value that a lot of other agents aren't going to necessarily bring up right away with people who aren't already signed on as clients. I'm giving away information, helping them get ready about their listing, helping them think about how they want their listings to go. And I'm going to be top of mind when that time comes. One pagers, these are kind of a summary of the rest of stuff, rest of the stuff that we talked about. A lot of it could be, here's my last 5 reviews. Here's some charity efforts that I participate in. It's more just, little tiny handouts that you can kind of keep here and there to continue to provide information to people. So if you guys are looking at what to do in the next, 12 months or 11 and a half months, I want to kind of focus around these 5 pillars of prospecting, right? Obviously, you need to make your calls. Obviously, you need to go and attend your appointments. But I'm saying if you have a free minute where you're not with a client or you're not on the phone or whatever that might be, think about how you can create additional content that you can then push out to, the masses or your community or specific people to tell them more about who you are, what you do, and how they can trust you safely to actually refer you people or work with you directly. So those 5 kind of pillars, I believe, work really well because they're all focused on providing value, leading with some kind of um, signal that you care about them, right? It establishes trust, right? Often before they actually do business with you, right? Which is going to shorten the sales cycle. It's going to give you better qualified conversations, right? So if I'm handing out information and let's say I give them a one pager about the importance of a pre-approval with a bank. And they go, oh, well, I'm not doing that. Okay, well, that's an interesting conversation. Why aren't you doing that? Do you have credit issues? Are you not trusting of banks? Do you not need a mortgage, right? Those five pillars of content can be an interesting kickoff point for deeper conversations. And all of that just accumulates into better clients who are going to give you better reviews. They're going to refer you more often, and they're going to be a lot more fun to work with. Because I bet you, if you guys have done any business, there's one client that just stays in your mind and it's rent free. And you think about all the ways it could have been better. You think about some of the mean things they said, and you wish you never did that deal. I can almost guarantee if everyone's being honest with themselves, there is that one person. And they probably know their name and their address. So the one thing that I always hear from, like people who have attended the presentation, people on my team, I don't have time to create content. And a lot of this revolves around the idea that, coming up with these ideas is difficult, or, structuring it in a way is difficult, or putting it on paper. I don't know what the barrier is, but often when we start to talk about some of the ways we remove that friction, it comes pretty naturally, right? So the thing is, if you've been in the business and you've done a couple of deals, you likely know way more than we'll call them the citizens or the pedestrians. I don't know what the right word is there. You likely have a much greater knowledge of actual practice of selling or buying a property. It's in your head. You just don't know how to either find time or capital or the words to say or whatever that might be. Now, I'm a big fan right now of AI. Not because I think it's going to take over the world and we're going to Skynet, like that's obviously coming, but for now we can leverage, the better parts of it. And I believe that AI does a great job of removing friction from content creators' minds. And I say that because, by title, you are realtors, but in prospecting, you need to create content of some kind to attract people to do business with you. Okay. It helps to increase the speed of production. And the thing is, once you start testing a lot of your content, it does not have to be perfect, right? So I was going to check on an appointment this morning. I pulled out my phone. I just took a selfie of me walking down the street, put an audio of it. And the last time I checked that particular page, it had something like 10,000 views. And that was at 8 o'clock this morning. So the thing is, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of effort or time. You just need to sort of remove the barrier, and AI can help you do that. Okay. So if you need kind of a crash course in AI or you have some specific questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. Like I try to make myself available as much as I can off of these presentations. Like you can get my email through the info at Northern Alliance email. You can go back to some of the conversations that I've had about AI and how you can produce content. And if you need help, we're here to help you. This whole organization was here to create value in the lives of realtors. So if you have questions, we're here to answer them. Okay. Now, a lot of people will look at it and go, okay, I don't want AI, I don't want AI kind of running my life. And I don't think it actually can or will at this point. I think that AI is just a specific tool to help in a couple of situations, right? AI is going to help you brainstorm ideas, right? You can go in and say, okay, I have this knowledge in my head. How do I create some, hooks about, that I can say in the first 8 seconds of a video to attract somebody? Well, here's your 15 hook ideas, right? It can create first drafts and revisions and stuff of your, guides, your checklists and stuff like that. And I say with very deep importance, drafts and first revisions. Do not simply create a guide in AI and send it out. There will be errors in there. And you also want to be able to add in your own stories, because your stories is what's going to create meaning and trust behind the content that AI is creating for you. Okay. As I mentioned, it structures your content, it helps organize your thoughts, which for a lot of people with a lot of thoughts in their brain, it's very helpful. And this is the big one. Any content that you create, whether it's, a one pager hard copy in writing or a video on YouTube or whatever. AI will help you repurpose that for every other one of those pillars that we talked about earlier. And it'll do it very well. So if you've gone through all the effort to create a long form video and some short vertical videos, why not take that and make a guide out of it? It's just an extra way to go out and have a tool to meet with people. Okay. I think it's vitally important that we start to diversify how we think about prospecting. I think the days of, I just cold call and circle prospect my open houses, like, yeah, that works. It's very time intensive and it has a hard cap on it. But why don't you circle prospect your open houses with value, right? You can still call them and say, hey, I'm selling this property on 123 Main Street. I have a full market review of the area. It's free, it's already made. There's no skin off my nose to give it to you. Would you like it? And they'll be like, sure, whatever. And then you go and you drop it off in person. You say, while I'm here, just wanted to, have a quick conversation. Why would you want to sell this beautiful house? Or whatever that might be, right? Start to think about how repurposing content or repurposing your communications can actually give you a lot of leverage in your business. Okay. So again, we kind of talked about it because I have a typically scattered mind. So here's some guides that you guys can create: downsizing guides, first time buyer explainers, landlord and tenant clarity. So, like, that's a big one if you want to get into multifamily, right? A lot of times people don't take rental leads. I love rental leads because I'm going to call the landlord and be like, hey, have you ever thought of selling your building? And they go, well, no, but I would for the right price. Oh, cool. What's the right price? Oh, I don't know. Hey, why don't we grab a quick coffee and let's have a chat about how we can find that right price? And if I find someone, are you willing to work with me? Of course. Great. And that's actually a real conversation that I had with someone, which resulted in me actually buying the 10-unit apartment building last year. So don't underestimate the value of any communication or any prospect that comes to the table. Okay. And then, of course, one of our agents is doing really well with neighborhood specific insights. And I've always challenged them to say, you're in a neighborhood anyway. You're talking about the real estate, you're talking about the neighborhood. Go start a podcast and interview the business owners in that area, right? Spend 15, 20 minutes and allow them to talk about their business. You don't have to sell anyone on anything when someone else is, promoting their business, selling the neighborhood for you, and ultimately being, your or an extension of your advocacy in an area, right? Really easy content to create. It's enjoyable. And you now have a business owner that, if it's a pizza shop, maybe the next time you go in, you get a free slice of pizza. If it's an accountant, maybe the next time they have someone selling a business, they're going to refer you, right? So there's a lot of ideas that can come from these real world examples. What I've come to learn over time is no matter how many times I repeat this information, there's usually only a small number of people that actually go out and do it. So I hope that you aren't the small number of people. I want to see you guys go out, do this information, and have the best year that you guys can absolutely have. So a lot of people have been talking about sales funnels for years and years and years and years. And they talk about, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom funnel. And a lot of it is focused around tactics. So tactics are things that we do to other people to get a specific goal out of them. Okay. The way I want to start to have a different eye on the sales funnel still has that, top, middle, and bottom of funnel, but rather than tactics, I want to focus on strategies. And strategies are a higher effort, ongoing way of building a meaningful relationship that's actually founded on trust, right? So my tactic might be, hey, I've got this really great priced property. It's probably going to sell pretty quick. We should have a conversation. That's a tactic to build urgency. But let's say I wasn't creating urgency in that way, and rather I was spending time going, here's what the market's doing, here's what individual neighborhoods are doing. There's a new build subdivision coming in this area. There's a pre-release for that subdivision that, me and my team have access to. Are you interested in having a conversation? Hey, now we're actually 92% sold out. Would you want to get in on this? right? That's a much different approach with roughly the same outcome, but a huge level of trust. And that is going to require you to be strategic about your business, right? That's the importance of ongoing communication. That's the importance of CRMs. That's the importance of tracking every metric that you can, typically within your CRM, and staying top of, and staying in a position where you're building that ongoing trust to have the conversations that are going to mean money into your pocket, but also a quality transaction for that person, right? Your money is a byproduct of you helping them make good financial decisions around real estate. That is our job. Okay. So I want you to think strategically about your communications through 2026. Earn the trust by providing value first through the five pillars that we were chatting about earlier. Have your conversations, and you're going to find there's a much more natural close to the process. So it's going to be a bit different, right? And I think this different is what a lot of people kind of push back against. And a lot of what is going to say, especially in the first one, is, everyone thinks that it's a numbers game. And to a certain degree, it is. However, would you rather chase 50 really high quality leads or 500 really cold, annoying leads that don't call you back and everything, right? In my opinion, and this might be, pushing back against the conventional, and I'm fine with that. I would much rather deal with 50 people who are actively engaged in my messaging, who trust me, and who I enjoy being around, right? It's going to lead to much less burnout. It's going to lead to way more leverage, and it gives you more control over your business. And I think that's the theme that, I hope most of the productive agents are going to take into 2026. I don't want you running around like a chicken without a head. I want you guys focused. I want you to look at, your CRM and say, okay, who are my A plus clients and who are people that really just need to get a message once a week through email. And your A plus clients are who I would recommend that you focus on throughout the year because they're the ones who are going to actually convert with less effort and you're going to enjoy your time a lot more. Now, I'm checking on the time. I believe that's my last slide. Oh, no, I got a challenge to you guys. I forgot about this slide. I added it in this morning because it's one thing to take all the information, it's another thing to actually do something with it. So, what I want you guys to do. We are the 8th of January. Let's just say it's a new year. We gave ourselves 7 days into the new year. Now it's go time. So I want you guys to think about it, tomorrow and over the weekend. Pick one audience that you really want to serve, right? What is their biggest problem and how do you serve that? And then with that in mind, create one asset. And what I mean by asset, a guide, a checklist, a one pager, an email sequence or story. Um, and now I can't even remember what the fifth one is. Let's go back to that. And your video series. I should have known that one, but here we are. So again, just to reiterate it, one audience, one problem, one asset. Once you have mastered that, go to the next step. And the next step is one more audience, one more problem, and one more asset. And over the course of 12 months, you will likely get to a point where you're servicing 5 to 6 really high quality audiences. You're going to have a great network built out. You're going to start to be generating referrals and deals from them. You're going to be answering very specific problems that they have. And you're going to start to build your repertoire of assets. Okay. So, that being said, presentation over. I'm going to jump out of the share and let's have a little fireside chat about what you guys are kind of hoping to achieve. How can we help? Any questions that you might have, whatever that might be. Joanna has a quick question before we jump into questions. Could you please repeat your weekly email schedule again? Sorry, a little bit fast to me. I did not hear clearly. No problem at all. Is Joanna still in here? She is. Okay. Monday, I'm sending out a deal of the week. So what that looks like, I go Monday morning, look through my MLS, look through my hot sheets, look through, information out there and say, okay, what is a property that is a good market buy for someone looking to enter the market or buy a property or whatever that might be. um, I would say, okay, hey, name this week's deal of the week is a townhome in Richmond. That's sure to sell fast. It has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, selling at this price, centrally located in a growing suburb or whatever that might be. Let me know if you'd like any information. And I'm almost confident that verbatim, that's my template. So you can work with it a little bit if you want. If you want, send me an email and I'll just send it to you, whatever that might work. So Monday, deal of the week. Wednesday, Wednesday is a market update. So what I go is I say, here's what's happened in the last week. Here's the number of new listings on market. Here's the number of solds that have happened in the last 7 days. Here's the 5-year variable rate mortgage, 5-year fixed rate mortgage. Let me know if you have any questions. I do see your question. I'll get to it in a second. On Friday, I build out a story, right? Whatever that might look like. It's generally based on something that happened throughout the week, and I make it a lesson that they can enjoy while reading. I really like writing, so I kind of make a full story out of it. And it's a lesson that they can take and move forward with to be cognizant of. So Monday, deal of the week. Wednesday, market update. Friday, call it a real estate story. Um, and so the question, you send emails to particular individuals or a group of people. I send all of those emails to all of my prospects. Okay. So I have a list of about, I think it's like 7,000 some odd prospects. I send it to all of them. My clients get a separate suite of emails, and active listings or active buyers also get a separate suite. And then my closed deals get a separate suite of emails. So I'm very segmented in how I send out my emails. But those 3 emails go Monday, Wednesday, Friday to that group of 7,000 or whatever, like clockwork. My pleasure. Any other questions pop up throughout that presentation? I know there was a lot of talking and happy to answer them. We got another 8 minutes or so, and let's jam out. Otherwise, let's get to our days and go create our assets. Not all at once here. Pamela, you're the new name, and I'm going to call you out. How are you? How are we digesting that information?
Good. I mean, I'm always happy to get any new knowledge or just go back sometimes. Just, I guess, starting the year with a bit of motivation, but as well, everything's changed so fast in the last 2 years. So I think my mindset is more oriented toward adapting and going for it instead of just like complaining or so that's how I see things. Like I try to see it more generally, let's say.
That's awesome. And that's why I included the end part of like, here's some steps that you could take, right? So like, to put you on the spot a little bit, like what kind of person do you like to work with?
You mean like the client?
Let's say you could do 100 transactions this year.
Yeah.
What would those people look like if you had if I had a little fairy wand and
Yeah.
could ding, here's 100 clients, what would they look like? What would you be doing with them?
Um, I would actually I'm thinking in French, that's why I'm really
Moi, je
thinking
comprends
about
français aussi, donc
pas
je parle.
facile, see why.
Ouais.
Um I really like the let's say the clientele that they're not a first time buyer. Like I do like those, but I like people that know what they want. And I can adapt easily. So I like these kind of challenges because at the end of the day, um, they might request more, like, but um, you're not losing time. Um, they know what they want. They're ready. So I really like those clients. That's my go-to. So downsizing or the opposite, like moving in another direction in life,
Yeah.
changing. I really like that.
So the interesting part is like when you think about assets that you could actually make kind of an interactive guide checklist hybrid to say, okay, how did your first purchase go? How did your last purchase go? What would you do differently? Right? And then get them thinking about mistakes they've made, accomplishments they've had, and what they want to do going forward, right? That could help provide them clarity, but also
Yeah.
continue to engage you so that you have the bandwidth to know exactly what they're looking for. Because everyone says like, "Oh, I know what I'm looking for," but then things change sharply, right? Like I remember someone had a complete idea of what they wanted to buy in a home. And then there was a Japanese orchid or some kind of tree in the front yard, and the wife just lost it emotionally, and she just really wanted that house, and like they bought it without even going in because of that tree, and that tree
Hmm.
was never even discussed, right? So you might have some really interesting leverage there, but bring to work with those people who are on their second, third, fourth, whatever purchase. It's always interesting to know where people have come from and to get to where they want to go.
Yeah.
That seems interesting.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So any other questions? If so, I'm going to let you guys go early, and we'll be on with our days.
Thanks,
Hello,
Mike.
hello.
Awesome. Yeah,
Hi.
Joanna.
I just want to continue a little bit about the conversation you had with Pam. Really like the idea you mentioned about fewer leads and better quality. I think this is open discussion. I think this is a very good and smart idea for individual like a solo agent or like a small team. I'm in the stage in expanding my team. I'm learning everything new to build a team because this is my very first time. I'm a little bit questioned about that idea when you apply that to expanding a team because everybody's want to work smart, but for a team, it's different than individual, right?
Yeah, so if I can just make sure I understand your question,
Mhm.
are you sort of asking how you can use some of this information to grow a team?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a super interesting question. And obviously you're here, right? So you
Mhm.
understand, the value that us at Northern
Yes.
Alliance can provide you, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of that could be, you know, essentially my presentation is your
Mhm.
presentation.
Mhm.
So it could be as simple as, leaving today and going, wow, Mike had some interesting things to say or whatever that might be. Let me summarize what he said.
Mhm.
And I can position that information to new agents who are joining my team.
Yeah.
Or it comes back to, creating a story about how our training here is making you grow as an agent and you're looking to provide the same to other agents. And then you're inviting them on to here.
Yeah, that's what exactly when I was thinking
Yeah.
when you talk about this. But for me, I'm learning more strategy about like expanding how to expanding my team. Like
Mhm.
I, as a team leader, maybe I should have a different strategy about fewer leads, better quality. Probably like from different perspectives, I need to have different team member to work on different fields. To
So
yeah.
you're
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely right. And I think that, the industry overall has a high turnover, right? So do
Mm-hmm.
you want to be turning over agents every, 3 weeks, whatever that might be?
Right. Right.
Or do you somehow work to position the services that we have at Northern Alliance, the training, what you're learning, how you're implementing it, what's that meaning to your business? And saying like, if you were to call me and just like I'm in Ottawa as well, if you call me and said, "Hey, I have 4 agents that are interested in learning how to be more productive.
Okay.
Let's get lunch or let's do coffee or jump on a call just like this." Whatever, like the whole purpose of Northern Alliance is to obviously train you guys as agents, but
Mm-hmm.
also to grow the organization as well. So if you guys have questions about how to grow it and what that means for you and the team,
Yeah.
we're here to help.
Cool. I'm going to grab your contact after this. I
Yeah,
just
no problem.
joined.
Yeah.
We just joined me and Ray also in this group. We just joined right before Christmas. So this is
Oh,
our first
awesome. Welcome.
first
Well,
training.
I'm glad I could get you started off with this one.
Thank you, and it's really
Um,
good information for today. I really appreciate. We haven't actually started a formal recruiting yet, so this is everything is brand new to us. Yeah.
if you reach out if I can help in any way. And I think Steve's on this call too, so
Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
he's
I'm on the call.
yeah,
Thanks
so
so much, Steve. Yeah, I text you.
we
I
can all
said,
link up and see how this, and work on a content structure that will help you.
yeah. I texted Steve, said this is a very good information. Thank you. Okay.
All right, guys, have a great rest of your day, and
Thank you.
looking forward to seeing you on the next training.
See
Thanks,
you.
Mike.
Bye, guys.